Hi tribe, in this video we are going to talk about the tax advantages of investing in REITs in Kenya. If you're new here, if you're new to the Wealth Tribe, then you probably don't know what a REIT is, and so it's important for us to start by defining what is a REIT. A REIT is a regulated investment vehicle where investors like you and I, we pool our funds together, just like we do while investing in money market funds, to invest in real estate assets. In exchange for the money that you invest in a REIT, you are allocated units, and by units I mean shares, where you earn money in two ways, that is through dividends and through capital gains. So yes, in Kenya, you can invest in real estate without having to directly buy a house, put up rentals, or buy a plot of land. Here is the typical structure of a REIT in Kenya. So as you look at the image, I want you to think of a REIT as an investment company that uses the money that you invest with them to buy and build real estate assets. These assets may appreciate in value, and that is called capital gains, or generate regular income from which you get a return in the form of dividends. Okay? A frequently asked question when it comes to investing in REITs in Kenya is, how do you make money when investing in REITs? There are two ways that you make money when you invest in REITs in Kenya. Number one, you make money through the dividends, usually paid out twice a year. The other way you make money is through the capital gains, and capital gains is when there is an increase in value of an asset, and this is usually realized when you sell the asset. So think of capital gains as, so for example, is, let's say you buy a piece of land for 500,000 Kenyan shillings, and then 2 years later the value of that land has appreciated to 700,000 shillings. So that 700k minus 500k is equals to 200,000. So that is the capital gain in that case, because land is an asset. So yes, those are the two ways that you make money when you invest in REITs in Kenya. How many types of REITs do we have in Kenya? So in Kenya we have 3 types of REITs. The first one is what we call an income REIT. So an income REIT is a form of REIT in which investors, we pool our funds together to acquire stabilized income generating real estate assets. And so these stabilized and income generating real estate assets can include residential or commercial real estate assets. The second type of REIT in Kenya is the development REIT. So in this case, investors are pooling their funds together to invest and develop real estate projects. And in completion of those real estate projects, the development REIT can be converted to an REIT. So we have one development REIT, and that is the Acorn Student Accommodation Development REIT. And that is the REIT that is responsible for the Qwetu and Qejani purpose-built student accommodation facilities that you may have seen as you move around Nairobi. So the Acorn Development REIT has a license to go out there and find a suitable piece of land, do research, and put up these Qwetu and Qejani purpose-built student accommodation facilities. After it has put up those student accommodation facilities, it will pay back the investors in the form of capital gains. You know, those people who invested in the beginning in order for these projects to be put up. And then after they have completed the projects, they sell those projects or those Qwetu and Qejani student accommodation facilities to the income REIT. And then finally, the third type of REIT in Kenya is the Islamic REIT. An Islamic REIT is a Sharia compliant REIT. They also invest in income generating Sharia compliant real estate assets. We do not have an example of a Sharia compliant REIT in Kenya because there's no developer who's come up to get into this business. Now that we know the 3 types of REITs in Kenya, which you've said are the income REITs, development REITs, and the Sharia compliant REITs, let's talk about which are the authorized REITs in Kenya. And so we have 4 REITs in Kenya, 4 authorized REITs in Kenya, and we're now going to talk about them in detail. The first one is the Acorn Student Accommodation Income REIT. So these ones, remember I've said the Acorn Student Accommodation Income REIT, right? So these ones is the REIT that is responsible for the Qwetu and Qejani student accommodation facilities that you may have seen as you move around Nairobi. It is an income REIT. To mean, remember that I've already defined what an income REIT, in that I said that an income REIT is a type of REIT that invests in stabilized income generating real estate assets. Okay, so this is an income REIT that started its operations in 2021. The Acorn Student Accommodation Income REIT is listed on the unquoted securities platform of the Nairobi Securities Exchange. It is the only REIT that is accessible to retail investors. By retail investors, I mean The Capital Markets Authority, which is the independent government body that regulates financial investments in Kenya, has categorized investors into two. The first category is retail investors. These are investors who invest less than 5 million in a particular investment. And then we have professional investors, who are people who are investors who can invest 5 million and above in a particular investment. So when I say that it is the only REIT that is accessible to retail investors, it means that you can invest in this REIT with less than 5 million. And so for the Acorn Student Accommodation REIT, in order for you to access it, for you to start investing in it, you need to create an account on a platform called VUCA. If you want to start investing in this REIT, I will put a link on the description box, and I'll also put the link in a pinned comment. Click that link, fill out your details, and then you'll immediately be able to start investing in the Acorn REIT, or Acorn Student Accommodation REIT. As of the time of recording this video, the minimum amount of money you need to start investing in the Acorn REIT through the VUCA platform is 521.1 shillings. Out of these 521.1 shillings, 299 of it will go towards joining fees for the silver package. And if you're wondering how the silver package works and all other packages on the VUCA platform, I have a video titled How the VUCA platform works that I will link somewhere here. You can watch that video in order to understand how the full platform works. The other 222.1 shillings will go towards buying 10 units. And remember, by units I mean shares. Will go towards buying 10 units of the Acorn REIT. And this is because at the moment, each unit is valued at 22.21 shillings. And so again, in this channel, I have created very many videos about investing in the Acorn REIT through the VUCA platform. So please dig my YouTube channel. I'll also link the videos in the description box and in the comment section. The second authorized REIT in Kenya is the Ilam Fahari REIT. The Ilam Fahari REIT was the first listed and regulated real estate investment trust in Kenya. It was the first REIT to ever be accessible in Kenya. It was listed on the Nairobi Securities Exchange in 2015, but unfortunately in 2023, the Ilam Fahari REIT was converted from an unrestricted REIT to a restricted REIT. In fact, so what this means is that it was converted from unrestricted to mean that back in the day, the Ilam Fahari REIT was accessible to all of us, to also retail investors. So all of us could be able to go to the Nairobi Securities Exchange through a stockbroker, and we would be able to buy units of the Ilam Fahari REIT. But then unfortunately in 2023, it was converted to a restricted REIT to mean that now it is only accessible to professional investors who have 5 million and above. I was one of the investors in the Ilam Fahari REIT back in the day before it was converted. And so what happened is that when it was converted, the REIT bought back the shares from us. So we sold we had to sell the shares back to the REIT, and actually created a very detailed video about that process of converting a REIT from an unrestricted to a restricted REIT. And this is the video right here, right? So go and watch that video if you're curious about why the Ilam Fahari REIT was converted from an unrestricted to a restricted REIT. Yeah, and so the Ilam Fahari REIT is also an income REIT, just like the Acorn Student Accommodation REIT. And then the third authorized REIT in Kenya is the Acorn Student Accommodation Development REIT. I had already started talking about this at the beginning of the video. So the Acorn Student Accommodation Development REIT, it is the REIT that is responsible for the development of the Qwetu and Qejani purpose-built student accommodation facilities. So this one is a development REIT. Just as I had explained, for them they have the mandate to get land and develop these Qwetu and Qejani student accommodation facilities. When they are done with the development, they sell those student accommodation facilities to the Acorn Income REIT. This one, the Acorn Student Accommodation REIT, it started its operations in 2021, and it is also listed on the unquoted securities platform of the Nairobi Securities Exchange. And I have videos on this channel explaining how the unquoted securities of the Nairobi Securities Exchange works. So please dig in, and I'll also link the videos in the description box. Acorn Student Accommodation Development REIT is also one of those REITs that you need 5 million and above. It's for professional investors only. You need 5 million and above for you to start investing. And if you're curious to learn more about how to invest in this REIT, remember that a year or so ago I hosted the CEO of Acorn on this channel, and we talked about how the two REITs are regulated, or the differences between the two REITs. So in this video, make sure you watch it in order for you to have more information about the Acorn Student Accommodation Development REIT. Finally, the fourth authorized REIT in Kenya is the Lab Trust Imara I REIT, Lab Trust Imara Income REIT. Just like the name denotes, it is an income REIT that started its operations in November 2022. It is also a restricted REIT, only available for professional investors. Even if, but that being said, you also need to know a bit of history when it comes to the Lab Trust Imara I REIT. So yes, it was, or rather it started its operations in November 2022. And when that happened, the promoter, who is Lab Trust, had committed to owning 100% of the REIT. Yes, so it committed to owning 100% of the shares, or rather 100% of the units of the Lab Trust Imara I REIT, of that REIT. Okay, and so since then, since November 2022, I actually thought, when I was doing research for this video, I actually thought they still own 100% of that REIT, because 3 years have not lapsed. So 3 years will elapse in this year 2025 in November, and so I was waiting to see what will happen to the REIT from November 2025. But then it turns out, I did some digging, and it turned out that this REIT is actually currently owned by two companies. So they were able to sell some shares at some 16% ownership of the company to NIC, to another company. And so for them, the Lab Trust Imara I REIT, they own 83.32% of the company. They retain now 83.32% of the company. So we can't wait to see what will happen to this REIT. Time November 2025 is with us, and of course I will update you about what will happen, so that we see if professional investors or wealth drivers who have 5 million and above can actually start investing in this REIT. So this means that even if you have 5 million, you currently cannot invest in this REIT at the moment. We have to wait until November for us to see, or maybe unless they change this ownership structure. What will happen is that after the 3 years, it will start trading on the secondary market of the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Now, at this point of the video, you have a rundown of what is a REIT, how a REIT works, how you make money while investing in REITs in Kenya, the 3 types of REITs in Kenya, and now you practically know the 4 authorized REITs in Kenya. But remember, the purpose of this video was for us to talk about the tax benefits of investing in REITs in Kenya, which is what we are going to start talking about now. The government of Kenya, in a bid to encourage investments in real estate, has put in place tax incentives to favor REITs in Kenya. And why do they do this? They do this because they aim to boost the real estate market, and in turn, that will lead to the deepening of the capital markets in Kenya. And so the REITs market, or REIT companies in Kenya, have several tax benefits, and let's go through a list of which tax benefits are these that they have. The first tax benefits that REIT companies have is that they are exempted from corporate tax. Corporate tax in Kenya currently stands at 30% per annum. So all corporate companies in Kenya are required to pay 30% of their profits to KRA as taxes. And so what this means is that because REIT companies are not paying the 30% corporate tax, this means that there is usually an increase in their net profit, because they are because they are saving on the taxes. And we know that this 30% corporate tax is very heavy, and because it's so heavy, it's usually very hard for a lot of corporate companies in Kenya to be profitable. And so because they've been exempted from this tax, this 30% tax, then it is required, or rather REIT companies are mandated by the Capital Markets Authority to distribute at least 80% of their net after tax profits to the unit holders. And who are the unit holders? The unit holders are us, who are the investors. And so yeah, because they're exempted from the 30% corporate tax, usually they have more profits available for them to distribute to us as unit holders. The other thing is that these REIT companies are also exempted from income tax, and so this income tax is the rental income that they get from this real estate, both residential and commercial real estate assets that they hold as a company. They are also exempted from stamp duty. They are also exempted from value added tax, and in certain circumstances they are also exempted from the capital gains tax. So as you can see, they are exempted from so many taxes, and so this is how they are able to have more and more money to distribute to their unit holders. The only taxation is only when these REIT companies are distributing the profits to us as unit holders. So what happens is that when they are distributing the profits to us, they deduct 5% withholding tax that is paid to KRA for those of us who are Kenyan residents, and for the non-residents they usually deduct 10% withholding tax. So that's the only taxation. And so now, since by this point of the video we've established that 3 out of the 4 authorized REITs in Kenya are for professional investors, people who are 5 million and above, let's focus on the tax benefits for us small investors, or rather us retail investors who invest in the Acorn REIT through VUCA, because as I said, the Acorn REIT through VUCA is the only REIT in Kenya that is accessible to us retail investors. So what tax benefits do we enjoy as retail investors when we invest in this REIT? The first tax benefit we have is that our capital gains are not taxed. What do I mean by this? So for example, I started investing in the Acorn REIT through VUCA back in August 2022. And back then when I started investing, each unit that I bought was valued at 20.88 shillings. Each of the shares was valued at 20.88 shillings. Currently, by the time I'm recording this video, which is in Feb of 2025, every unit is currently valued at 22.21 shillings. This means that each unit that I bought back then when they were valued at 20.88 has had a capital gain of 1 shilling and 33 cents, each of those units, okay? If I was to sell any of my units that I bought back in the day, I would get 100% of my money and I would not incur any capital gain tax. But the only cost that I would incur while selling my units is the 1% service charge that is charged by the VUCA platform. But otherwise, yes, I would get 100% of my money and I would not incur any taxes, and it will be an automatic process. The dividends from the Acorn REIT, which is usually paid out, these dividends are usually paid out twice a year, we are only taxed at 5%. Remember, if you compare withholding tax from money market funds, for example, when you invest in money market funds, your interest is charged at 15%, remember. And when you invest in bonds, apart from the infrastructure bonds that are tax free, the other fixed income bonds, you usually charge either 10 or 15% in withholding tax, depending on the duration of the bond or depending on the maturity of the bond. So back to the Acorn REIT, when you invest, your dividends are only taxed at 5%, and I will show you my dashboard later on in order for you to see that yes, they automatically deduct 5%. Now that you know the tax benefits that you enjoy as a REIT investor, let's compare that to other taxes that you incur when investing in traditional real estate, such as apartments, land, and commercial buildings, because it's very important to compare investments in order for you to know whether it is actually a big benefit for you to be investing in REITs in Kenya. So when you invest in traditional real estate, as I said, land, apartments, commercial buildings, you usually set back, right? Or you incur a lot of legal fees, a lot of levies, and a lot of taxes. I will give you a list of 6 taxes that you incur when you invest in this type of traditional real estate. Let's start with the first. The first type of fee that you incur when you're investing in land is what we call the land rent. The land rent is an annual fee that is paid to the national government as consideration for holding leasehold land in Kenya. And so if you're wondering what is the difference between leasehold land and freehold land, I have a video with a conveyancing lawyer where we talked about the whole process of buying land in Kenya, how to avoid getting conned when buying land in Kenya, but most importantly, what is the difference between leasehold and freehold land in Kenya. But for now, all I want you to understand is that land rent is something that you incur when you hold and is paid to the national government when you hold leasehold land in Kenya. The second fee that you incur when investing in traditional real estate is what we call the stamp duty. So the stamp duty is charged on transfer of interest in property. So for example, when you're buying land, it is paid by you, the purchaser, prior to the transfer of the land from the owner to you. And so usually the stamp duty is 4% of the prevailing market value for land in cities, and it's usually charged at you pay 2% of stamp duty if the land is of the prevailing market value if the land is in rural areas. There will be a government valuer who ascertains the value of that land so that they are able to know what is 4% or what is 2% respectively of that land that you're supposed to pay as stamp duty. Stamp duty is also applicable when you're gifting somebody a property. Yes, so if you're gifting somebody an apartment, or if you're gifting somebody a piece of land and the ownership has to change from you to the person who is receiving the gift, stamp duty is also applicable in that case. But there are exceptional circumstances where stamp duty is exempt. I'm not going to go through that list because we already created a video, or rather I already created a video where I interviewed a conveyancing lawyer, and she gave us a list of when you can be exempted from paying a stamp duty, and you can find the video here. The other form of tax that you incur when investing in traditional real estate is what we call the capital gains tax. Remember, when you're investing in REITs, you're exempted from any capital gains tax. The capital gains tax is paid by the property seller from the gain that you get as capital gains from your property. And so usually the capital gains tax is 15% of the profit or the gain after factoring in any incident stock. What I mean is that imagine a scenario where you buy an apartment at 10 million and 5 years later the value of this apartment is 15 million. So from this 5 million, the difference, from this 5 million difference, you have to pay 15% as capital gains tax, right? And of course, they also consider any incidental cost that you incurred in the process of selling or in the process of maintaining this property. And so again, they have, or I do understand that we have some exemptions when it comes to paying capital gains tax. And again, I will refer you to this video where you can have more information about in which instances can you be exempted from paying capital gains tax. Tax number 4, value added tax. So the value added tax, VAT, only applies to commercial properties. So for example, if you want to buy a go down or you want to buy a warehouse, this is the only time where the value added tax applies to you when it comes to property investment. And so you as the purchaser, if you're buying a go down or a warehouse or anything that is under commercial real estate, you have to pay 16% of the purchase price as VAT. The 5th type of tax that you incur is what we call the rental income tax. A lot of us who want to buy property or who want to buy rental properties do not want to hear of this tax, but it is indeed a big thing. And by the way, I hope by now, I hope that you can see that when a lot of us are thinking about buying, putting up rentals, buying an apartment, buying land, these are some of the costs that we actually do not think about. We only see ads on billboards that they're selling to us an apartment at 8 million in Kileleshwa, in Kilimani and the likes, and we get excited because maybe you have that kind of money, but you don't think about all these types of land rent, land rates, rental income tax, VAT, all these things that I'm talking about. So these are things that you have to consider before you make a decision to buy a property. But let's go back to rental income. So rental income tax is charged on rental income from both residential and commercial properties. So when it comes to residential properties, it's usually 7.5% of gross rental income that is paid monthly by the landlords whose rental income is 288,000 to 15 million. So if you're earning 288,000 to 15 million, you owe KRA every month 7.5% of your gross income. And so for those landlords who earn more than 15 million, so for rental income that is above 15 million, tax is usually calculated on a graduated annual income scale for individuals. And you can find this graduated rental income scale on KRA's website in case you are one of those landlords. And when it comes to companies, corporate companies who have residential properties, for them their tax is even higher. It's usually at 30%. Why? Because they are considered, or rather they are a corporate company. And we do know that nowadays KRA is very, very aggressive so that they are able to collect their rental income tax. Finally, the other type of tax that you incur when you're investing in traditional real estate is what we call land rates. Remember, the first one I talked about was land rent. So this one is land rates. And this one is usually charged by county governments, and this is charged for both freehold and leasehold land. You know that I already have guides about the differences between freehold and leasehold land. Go and watch those guides. And so as you can see, these are 6 forms of taxes that you incur when investing in traditional real estate. So I don't know whether at this point I have convinced you that investing in REITs is more tax efficient than investing in traditional real estate. Now, at the beginning of this year, I committed to investing 8,500 shillings per month in the Acorn REIT through the VUCA platform. And to end this video, let's go to my VUCA dashboard where I'm going to do exactly that. I have logged into my VUCA dashboard, and as I said, I have committed to investing 8,500 per month for the rest of 2025 on this platform. As you can see here, it's written that your total investment for the year 2025 is 8,484.22. So this is an amount that I invested in January. Yes, because I'm recording this video in February of 2025. And so they say you have invested one time in the past 2 months. Yes, so that's why I have to invest month 2 in Feb. So I have to invest another 8,500. And so I wanted, before I do that, I wanted to come here to my wallet to show you we pay 5% withholding tax that is deducted from our dividends. So as you can see here, withholding tax for dividends, you see, so withholding tax for dividends, and this was deducted on 30th of September 2024, withholding tax for dividends, and it was 46, yeah, so they deducted 46.52 because in that month the amount of dividends that I earned, or rather during that time of dividend distribution, I earned 930 shillings in dividends. So 5% of 930.30 is 46.52. so yeah, I wanted to show you guys that. And so now we can go back home, and then when it comes to capital gains tax, you see at the moment I own 5,382 units. So if I was to sell all these units today, I would not incur any capital gains tax. All that money would go to me. The only thing that I would incur, as I said earlier, is the 1% service charge that is usually charged by this platform, this VUCA platform. So let me show you how that works. So let's say, for example, I want to sell 5,000 of my units. So all I have to do is I've typed 5,000 units on the platform. Yes, so sell 5,000 units for 109,939.50. So we click sell 5,000 units. So you confirm to place an order for 5,000 units for 109,939 shillings.50. How they arrived at that is that this is the current value of 5,000 units. But then, as I said, they have to deduct 1% in service charge, which is 1110.5, and so the net amount adds up to 109,939.5 shillings. So this amount will automatically be, if I was to place this order, if I was to confirm this sale, this amount will automatically be credited to my bank, and I would not incur any capital gains tax. Now that's clear. I'm here to buy units worth 8,500 shillings because that is my commitment for 2000, or rather this year 2025. So remember, I always say that there are 2 ways to buy units on this platform. You either click units and write the number of units you want to buy. For example, if I wanted to buy 500 units, I would simply click 500, and then the system will automatically tell me how much I have to pay for 500 units. You can also click the amount button and enter the amount of money you want to spend on your units. So that's exactly what I've done. Wait for the system to calculate. Yes, so it's saying buy 382 units for 8,485 shillings. So yes, so you have different ways. Remember that you have 3 ways to pay for units on this platform. There's pay using bank, and these are Acorn's banking details. You can pay using M-Pesa. You go to M-Pesa, do the pay bill, enter this as the business number, and this enter it as your account number. But remember, do not enter this because this is my Agatha's account number. Make sure you enter your own account number, and complete the purchase. For me, I always like to use the easier payment method, which is paying through, where I enter my mobile number and then they send me a prompt. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Congrats, we've received your order. track order. So as you can see, today is the 22nd of February. I have bought 382 units. A single unit value is 22.21 shillings, and so that's the amount of money I have sent to Acorn. When we go back home, yeah, as you can see, so this money is already in my static wallet balance, and so at the end of the month, my order will change from pending to fulfilled, because if you've been part of the Wealth Tribe long enough, or if you've been watching my videos long enough, you know that they have 2 trading cycles at mid-month, on the 15th of the month, and at the end of the month. Yes, because today is 22nd Feb, I have to wait for 28th of February for my order to change to fulfilled. So yeah, that's me for now. You now fully understand the tax advantages of investing in REITs in Kenya. And as the consistent gali that I am, I invested my 8,500 in January in the Acorn REIT, and I have now invested my 8,500 in February in the same REIT. And so at the end of this video, or anytime I create videos about investing in the Acorn REIT through the VUCA platform, I don't forget to remind you that, remember that this is a long-term investment. And so I always insist that before you start investing in this REIT, make sure you have an emergency fund. Yeah, so make sure that you have started by, for example, opening a money market fund account. And if you need help with setting up a money market fund account, you know that I can help you set up a money market fund with either Sanlam or CIC. So my point is, make sure that you have an emergency fund, a well-funded emergency fund of at least 6 months worth of living expenses. But a good place to be is having an emergency fund of a 1 year worth of living expenses before you start investing in the Acorn REIT. So you start by having a 1 year emergency fund, and then after that you can start diversifying your investment portfolio, and investing in this REIT is one of the ways of diversifying your investment portfolio. And so with that, thank you for staying up to the end of this video. Before I go, if you want to start investing in the Acorn REIT through the VUCA platform, the links are in the description box and the pinned comment. Click the link, fill out your details, pay the 299 to join the silver package, and the team from VUCA will either call you or email you with your login details.